Dan Sullivan.
Thank you. I'd like to speak this morning regarding this tragic and unfortunate vacancy that we have on the board and our governing documents. I don't believe this is or should be about politics or about who's for or against this person or this faction or that faction. I sincerely mean that. I believe it's about the membership of our association. Our governing documents state that if the vacancy occurs at the time of the annual election, it should be filled by the first runner-up in that election. It's a bit unfortunate because it's a little bit unclear at the time of the election. Is that when the votes were due in, the deadline? Is it when the votes were announced, the result? Is it during the month of the voting and the annual meeting of the membership? It doesn't make that clear. There's a lot of ambiguity, within some of our governing documents. But I think the intent, the spirit of it, is clear. Now, because of that wording, our board does not have to follow that and appoint the next runner-up. But the spirit and the intent of those governing documents, which were put forth and enacted by memberships of this association, clearly intend that the next runner-up in that election should be appointed to that position. That runner-up in our most previous election last spring was only a few votes behind Mr. Herman, who was elected. So it was very close. And I don't see any reason, other than politics, to deny appointing that person to that position. And so I would prevail and ask this board to take that into consideration, seeing they are deadlocked. And it's clear that we have had a divisive board of directors here. It's been a 3-2 thing time after time. There's no sense pretending otherwise. That's the way it's been, with good, bad, or indifferent. But the time has come to follow the intent of our governing documents. Now, this morning when I went out to leave, there was a letter on my windshield, or for some of you from England, on my windscreen. But the letter is only signed by a member of good standing, so I'm not going to read it. However, it basically says the same thing that I have just said, and it points out a few other things too. And so I will leave it with our acting president of the board, and he can do with it what he chooses, but I shall not. But that's all I have to say. And by the way, that person in that election, we all know, or the record would show, was Myrna Castle, who got around 400 votes approximately. And so that means that there were 400 members out there that felt she should be on the board. Thank you very much.
And it's different under bylaws too, on page 8, no vacancies per death. Will you please read that
It
for all?
specifies for that.
Per death.
Okay, I want to read I'm reading it directly out of this, which is our guideline in the Property Association law, Texas Homeowners Association laws. It's on page 154. It's section 3.82, manner of filling a vacancy on a subdivision association's board of directors. If a nonprofit corporation, HOA, is a subdivision association, the manner of filling a vacancy of the board of directors is governed by both its governing documents and Chapter 209 of the Texas Property Code, which differs slightly from the applicable provisions in the Texas Nonprofit Corporation Law. Pursuant to Section 209.00593 of the Texas Property Code, a vacancy on a subdivision association's board of directors may only be filled by the affirmative vote of the remaining members of the board of directors if the vacancy was caused by a resignation, death, or disability of the former director. Thus, if a director is involuntarily removed from a subdivision association's board of directors, the vacancy caused by such removal must be filled by election by the subdivision's association of lot owners. In addition, any appointment of a person to fill a vacant position on a subdivision association's board of directors in violation of these procedures of Chapter 209 is considered void.
I do not intend that. Certainly you are in compliance with the law during the procedure. I'm only bringing out that the spirit, the intent, and when you can't come to agreement, there's nothing to prevent you from taking into consideration that. That's all.
Okay.
And while we're quick to grab our HOA book, what happened to reading the part about sending people emails about the board notification when they requested it? Evidently, we had a recount on that opinion from last week when you said that was not necessarily what we had to do. Because it clearly says in the same book, not very far from that.
We got clarification, so therefore we're going to, I apologize because it did say and or, and then we did get clarification, and the legal clarification had changed because we both sat down and reread it. Yes.
Thank you. And how did we get legal clarification?
Because I went and sought legal counsel. With the
Doesn't only the
approval
board
of,
have approval? Doesn't the board
with the
have to
direction of the
approve?
president, yes sir,
Oh, the president, not the board.
president.
So the rest of the board is kind of treated like mushrooms then.
Stop, don't, Robbie, don't go there, please. Don't use that. We had a problem, we were trying to straighten it out. We went and asked for legal counsel,
No,
which
we
is a
didn't,
right.
you did.
Right, what's wrong with that?
Actually, you
Were
did
you
6
gonna-
months ago.
Were you gonna vote no to go to legal counsel to get this clarified?
Whether I would vote no or not, I didn't have
I'm
a
sorry,
chance to vote.
excuse me folks, it just annoys me that, you start nitpicking at crap because we're trying to do the right thing. We went and sought legal counsel to find out what is right. He doesn't like it. I'm sorry.
The board did not do it, you decided for them.
Exactly. What's wrong with that?
If you
I guess
recall,
we didn't do the board, which is ideal.
we did this.
You wanna quit? Well, then stop that. Don't go there.
Let's bring it down a notch, guys.
I'm sorry, folks, I apologize.
Is it
I did, all right?
Alright, let's go.
Just get back to the book.
You're on ethical, make sure you're with other people when it's talking about exec session. You want to go into ethics?
I would expect comments from the PN.
You want, right, that's right, because
Okay,
we're just hired help.
okay, let's,
It is now 10:09. We're going to executive session.